Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the latest edition of the African Diaspora News Channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our community. Now, let's have a real conversation, right? And not the one full of half-truths, cherry-picked stats, and loud protests, but the actual truth, right? So this week in Washington, D.C., right in front of the Supreme Court, the nation watched a storm of voices clash over abortion. And it was the Planned Parenthood versus the South Carolina trial. But what unfolded was much bigger than any court case, if you ask me. It was a collision of race, of healthcare, poverty, and actually power. And in the middle of it, us, Black folks, brown folks, poor folks, right? And once again, being spoken about, but really heard. And one speaker really stood out for me, Jolly Good Ginger, a white ally who gets it, right? He stepped up and said something that many have danced around for decades. Let's watch this clip and come and discuss.
2% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortion. If you live in a marginalized community, if you don't have regular access to health care.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So actually, Planned Parenthood disproportionately kills.
I love that. Wait, say the rest of it. Wait, I love this one. Tell me that talking point.
Planned Parenthood disproportionately ends the lives of Black and Latino babies. That's a fact.
Why do more Black people get abortions? Abortions are based on what? Lack of access to resources. Because abortions disproportionately happen to impoverished people. Why are Black people more impoverished than white people? Because of white supremacy. So thank you for pointing out that people that have been forced into poverty through systemic racism of the last 200 years are forced to abort their baby more because of the lack of resources to be able to raise a baby, and then you use that as your talking point to take the health care away from those same women that are suffering in those same impoverished neighborhoods because you don't want to acknowledge the white supremacy behind it all. Go ahead.
Abortion is rooted in racism. It's inextricably tied to eugenics. Margaret Sanger.
I love the Margaret Sanger point. Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood. Early on, she was a eugenicist. Planned Parenthood said, hey, she was a eugenicist. Her early views were very bigoted. Planned Parenthood did not offer abortions until 4 years after she was dead.
Why did Margaret Sanger, what made her popular to begin with?
She would call it like birth control.
Birth control.
So do you call abortion birth control?
Margaret Sanger had nothing to do with abortions, bro.
She had been dead for 4 years.
Being really selective in the facts you choose to highlight.
Talk about some facts. No federal funds are used for abortions. You know that, right?
They confirmed they know the Hyde Amendment.
Okay, you know the Hyde Amendment, so what's your issue with having women have pap smears? Do you hate women? I believe I brought up the facts of the case before I told you that you looked like a little fuckboy.
That's just why I wish.
Yeah, you should. And I knew that he was bringing up Black people, which is why I was rude to him. And if he really wants to talk about, helping Black women and helping Black families, he could talk about not cutting Medicaid, which 40% of pregnant people use, and a lot of Black women.
Now pause and sit with that. Because what he said wasn't just facts, it was a mirror. And it forced everyone to look at the bigger picture. Because you can't scream Black babies matter at abortion clinics if you're not fighting for Black mothers to have Medi-Aid, to have housing, to have food, to have jobs and safety, right? You can't call abortion Black genocide while defunding the very services like Planned Parenthood that give Black women pap smears, STI testing, cancer screenings, and parental care. And Walter Masterson said something. He said only 2% of Planned Parenthood services are abortion related, meaning that the other 98%, that's healthcare. Real life-saving healthcare that too many of our sisters, our cousins, our aunties, and daughters rely on. Because the American, right, and not only the American, but the world's healthcare system isn't built for us, if we're being honest. And let me ask you this, right? Are we really protecting Black life? If we force a 16-year-old girl in an underserviced neighborhood to give birth, then strip away her Medicaid, close her neighborhood clinic, and ignore the violence and the food neglect and the failing schools she has to raise that baby in. Because if we're being really, really honest, that is not pro-life, that's pro-birth and pro-abandonment. So while protesters stood outside SCOTUS, pointing out fingers and waving signs, real voices like Jolly Good Ginger reminded the world of this uncomfortable truth, that you can't talk about abortion in Black communities without talking about the systemic racism that creates the conditions for it. And you can't claim to care about Black babies if you don't care about Black mothers. We need healthcare and not hysteria, support and not shame. And above all, we need the freedom to decide what's best for our bodies and our families and our future, because reproductive justice is racial justice. And until the world actually gets that, I believe we'll still keep talking about the truth. What are your thoughts on this? Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. I would really love to hear what your thoughts are. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a